So it sounds pretty much exactly what it sounds like. Sounds exactly what it sounds like. What? Hello everybody, my name is Kelsey and we're about to get very, very nerdy with a fun tag. So I stumbled across this one on my feed a little while ago and it looks like a lot of fun, super fun, short kind of video for you guys, but it looked like a lot of fun, and it is the days of the week tag. So it's pretty, I think, self-explanatory. 7 questions, 7 days of the week. You see if the week correlates with a specific question. If I can remember who I saw this on, I'll leave their video down below, and if I can find the original, I'll leave it down below. I was having trouble finding it, so we'll see. But I will also leave all the questions down below if you'd like to play along in the comments. I would love that. But let's dive in. So I've got my questions off to the side, so if I'm looking away, that's why. And it says, Secret Book Sunday, what is a book series that you secretly love that you don't always tell people? And it's one that I've definitely talked about on this channel before, but it's been quite a while since I've talked about it, and that is the Reluctant Royals series by Alyssa Cole. This is technically like 5 books long. There's 3 books and 2 novellas. So as of right now, I haven't finished the series. I've read the first 2 books and the first novella, and so I have 1 novella and the very last book to go. And the idea behind this story is pretty, I feel like, self-explanatory. All of the books in this series have to relate to a royal in some way. I remember reading the first 2 books and really enjoying them. I feel like I gave them both 5 stars. They're all a little bit different, so I'll leave them linked down below, as I usually leave a lot of my books linked down below. So if you want to check out what they're about, because they're all different. But the 3 main books basically follows this trio of friends that really becomes friends in the first book, and each of their respective romances. And then the 2 novellas follows a staff member from one of the royals and then a sister from one of these girls. So all kinds of fun. I love them because they are very, as you can probably tell by the covers, they are POC friendly. This is a POC author as well. And so it's just fun, beautiful romances that I don't even remember who turned me on to this, honestly. It's someone I came across on one of the videos I watched. But I seriously love them. They're super fun. They've got all the fun rom-com vibes. They're super spicy like you would expect. And they're just written very, very well. And they all have like a tint to them. Obviously, you've got kind of like a fairy tale, almost like Prince falling in love with a pauper almost kind of story. And this one you have a like Scottish main character, and then you've got some fun other ones. I can't remember what the last one is, but I feel like it's Hate to Love. So a lot of fun. I honestly should probably get to finishing the series since I'm so close, but I haven't talked about it in quite a while because I read these 3, I feel like last year, no, not even, probably like a couple of years ago. And I just need to get back into the swing of things, since I do love Alyssa Cole's writing style. But I would say that's one that I don't really talk a whole lot about, but is definitely a good one. The next one is Mashup Monday, and that is, which 2 books or series do you think that it would be good if you meshed them together? So my answer is kind of weird, because it was hard to think of like books that would like go well together, but I have landed on something that I think could be very interesting, and that is Half a Soul by Olivia Atwater meshed with Anatomy by Dana Schwartz. So Half a Soul is basically, it was termed to people who like Jane Austen, in my opinion, because it's got the like Regency vibes and like the love story that a Jane Austen book would have, but it deals with fairies and magic. And then you have Anatomy, which deals very loosely with magic, but it's got the grim kind of gothic vibe of having someone, a woman specifically, who is not really allowed to study medicine and anatomy, in like Edwardian London almost, or not, sorry, not London, Edinburgh, Scotland. And having her really like befriend this guy who basically digs up bodies for her to study. So I think these 2 would mesh really well together because the story in here is very fascinating. It has a fantastical twist. And this book, when I was reading it, technically isn't technically fantasy, but has a lot of moments that leans itself well to fantasy. And Half a Soul has a lot of moments that leans well to that gothic style. So I feel like if you had the story of Half a Soul written in the way of Dana Schwartz and like that very gothic Edwardian rougher part of London style, these two would work really, really well together. Honestly, these are both, I think, 5 stars for me. I love both of these books for respective reasons, but I feel like if you meshed the stories and the like writing together, it would just create a very fascinating story. And I feel like these stories individually lend itself well to be meshed together. The next one is Trilogy Tuesday. And what is your favorite trilogy? Which honestly, so that's a mean question. Don't like that one. So I have landed, I was thinking about trilogies, and the problem is I love trilogies, but I haven't had too many of them. But the one that I'm going to mention here is the Brown Sisters trilogy by Talia Hibbert. The first one being Get a Life, Chloe Brown, followed by Take a Hint, Danny Brown, and ending with Actor Age, Eve Brown. So these are all contemporary romances set in the UK, and it follows obviously 3 sisters, each of their respective romances, and each of these books takes a topic and really has that lovely rom-com kind of fuzzy vibes that you expect from a romance, and is written in the most British way I can possibly think of. The humor is so British, and I love every second of the time that I read these books, but each of them tackles or like represents a specific thing. So in Chloe Brown, we have our main character Chloe, who is chronically ill, and then we also have dealing with toxic, almost abusive relationships. And then Danny Brown, I feel like has some sort of rep in it as well, and now I'm definitely blanking on what that is. I think it's dealing with anxiety and trauma in a sense. Yeah, just general anxiety disorder, and how to treat it and stuff like that. So that one definitely deals with anxiety. And then Eve Brown deals, I believe, with autism. So obviously deals with ableism and stuff like that. So each of these books tackles a relatively tough subject, but I feel like Talia does it in such a fun, almost lighthearted way. I mean, it's not, because she is tackling these very rough situations, but she does it in a way that you fall head over heels for your main characters. You want them to be together. All of the male love interests are fantastic, and my favorite part about these stories is they're all so adult, in the sense of like they actually talk about their problems. That is one of the biggest issues I have, I think, with romances, is that a lot of the times the couple doesn't talk about their problems or handle it in an adult manner, and it's almost unrealistic. Whereas in this book, the conflict, if you will, doesn't arise from them not talking about things. It's something else. So like they all kind of communicate with each other, and I really like that. And so these are just so good. So if you like romance and you haven't read this series yet, you are seriously missing out, because it is literally, it's my favorite series, like as far as trilogies go. Like, it's just so good. So the next one is Wacky Wednesday, and that is what is a book with the wackiest story or wackiest cover. And so I'm going to go with wackiest story, because I think this is a relatively calm cover, and that is Darling Girl by Liz Michalski. I will leave my wrap up. I read this in October, so I'll leave that linked above. I also read it for like a special kind of cozy vlog. This one is really hard to talk about as far as why it's wacky, because it all deals with huge spoilers for this story. So I know I've talked about this a lot lately, but this story basically follows Holly, who is the granddaughter of Wendy from the story of Peter Pan. And Peter's a real person, and Peter's not the good guy that her grandmother believed him to be. So it follows her. She has basically created her own, I don't even know what you call it, because it's not like a makeup specific company, but it is like cosmetic maybe, in a sense. So she's created her own company, and she has 2 kids, a son and a daughter, but no one really knows about her daughter. And the story really starts when her daughter ends up going missing. Now her daughter has been in a coma for, I think, 10 years at this point. Like, it's been a very long time. And the fact that her daughter just goes missing one day is really interesting, because of the fact that her daughter was in a coma. And so there's a lot about Holly herself, because she's scientific, so a lot of her products have to do with biology in some way. So there's a lot of science on her part about stuff. And so there's a lot of stuff with her and her daughter biology wise that is really bizarre. And then the story just gets weirder and weirder as it goes along. And so I don't really know how to explain it to you, because again, huge spoilers, but this just is, the more I tried to explain this to my best friend, the more she looked at me like this was the weirdest thing she'd ever heard, which is true. This is one of the weirdest story plot lines in a very long time. And I think it has to do with the fact that it's possibly magical realism in a sense. I mean, it lends itself more to fantasy than magical realism, but it does have that air of like, is this real? What's real kind of situation. And so it's weird. It's a really weird book. I literally held on to it so I could show it in this video, and it's going to get on hold and I'm throwing it. Great. Awesome. It's just so bizarre, and I don't have an issue with bizarre books, but this one kind of took it almost a little extra bit. So yeah, that's the wackiest book I've read in quite a while. The next one is Throwback Thursday, and that is what is a book or series that brings back memories from your past. And so this one I'm going to go with a specific book, and that is I Speak Boy by Jessica Brody. This is a middle grade book that is kind of a reimagining, modernized reimagining of the story of Emma by Jane Austen. You don't have to read Emma to really have this book make sense to you, but it does have a lot of characters that are similar, and it has a relatively similar plot line in a sense. So you follow our main character, Emmy, who one day wakes up with an app on her phone instead of her Translate app. It's called I Speak Boy. And when she has it open and she's around boys or anyone who identifies as male, it translates what they say into what they actually mean. And so she uses this to her advantage and kind of like becomes the matchmaker of her school, hooking up people with the right people because they actually like each other and they're just not talking about it, or like all that kind of stuff. But Emmy is like boy crazy. And this reminds me so much of like me in a later middle school, early high school. I was just taken back to like what I thought, and this is such a good representation for people who, you know, like me, it crosses all age ranges, because like I, in my late 20s, can read this book and go, oh my God, that was me. But I also feel like someone who's in middle school can read this and go, oh my gosh, I'm seeing this book, just because it relates so well, I think, to a lot of different people and how they relate to the world and how they relate to the world at that age. So this one brought me way back to like, again, later middle school, early high school, just because the way Emmy thought was relatively similar to how I thought. And it was just like, it was so trippy reading this book, because I was like, can she see into my soul or my memories? Because that's what it felt like, that I was like seeing into my past. So that's for sure one that I can very much relate to. The next one is Freaky Book Friday, and that is what book freaked you out the most, or what book cover freaked you out the most. So I'm going to go with both here because I'm extra. And so a book that freaked me out the most, and I take freaked me out with like a grain of salt, is Damsel by Elena K. Arnold. I read this book, I think my very first year here on BookTube. It was one that I saw someone talk about because it was supposed to be super, super feminist. It took like a twist on the damsel in distress kind of story. It takes place in this like made up village in town where like the prince goes and rescues a damsel from the dragon, brings her back to his castle, and they get married and start a life. And so like that's how every single guy in this family does that. So like his mother, who was also in the castle and was kind of trying to help our main character adjust to that, came from this kind of distressed situation. And I wasn't loving it, and I knew the point of this book was to kind of make you angry and question the way that this guy is treating our main character, just because it's very archaic. It's very like anti-feminist. It's very like gender roles, things like that. You know, you're a woman, so you should be thinking these things, or you should be doing or not doing these things. And so our main character kind of like pushes back on that a little bit, because she can't remember how she got in the dragon's lair. She can't remember anything like that. All she remembers is waking up after being saved. And so all of the women are like this, at least in the royal family, and how that tradition has gone. And so for me, the point, I think, was to make the reader angry because of the things that our main prince character was saying to our main female lead. But the end is what freaked me out. The way that she what she remembers, because she does end up remembering kind of what happens in that moment, and the very end is repercussions from that. But the way that she remembered, not the way, but like what she remembered and how she got into that situation, is the weirdest thing I've ever read in a book in my entire life, and it's like I cannot forget that ending, which is unfortunate because I would very much like to forget that ending. So I despise this book. I think it got 2 stars, 1 star, something like that. Like, it was not good, and it was mainly because I don't think it was written well, and then the ending was just out of the blue weird beyond belief. So that's like the book that freaked me out, and then the cover that freaked me out is Coraline. I feel like it's very self-explanatory, especially when I was reading, because I definitely read this for the first time in middle school. So yeah, that cover still kind of haunts me to this day, I'm not gonna lie. And then the very last question is Shelfie Saturday, and that is to show some pictures of your favorite bookshelves, a couple bookshelves, just like some inspiration. So I went on Pinterest, so I'll plop some in here so you can see just some things that I love. I do love my bookshelf, don't get me wrong, but it's always fun to kind of look and see what other fun stuff's out there. So those are just a few of the ones that I like. And that's it. Those are my answers to the days of the week tag. I hope you enjoyed. It's a relatively shorter video. We're trying to get some things content out for you guys for the Thanksgiving break while I will be not doing anything. So I hope that you guys enjoyed this. Like I said at the beginning, feel free to play along in the comments if there's a specific question that stuck out to you that you wanted to answer, or anything I said. I would love to know all your thoughts. And if you want to comment something but you're not sure what to comment the calendar emoji. I feel like that's pretty self-explanatory for this type of video. So feel free to comment that down below. But if you like this video, and I very much hope that you did, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up and subscribe down below if you'd like to be part of this awesome growing family. I've also got all my social media down there, as well as other fun bookish links, so check all of that out, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!